The easy path to paint like old masters requires us to follow one thing and one thing only. After 44 days of painting outdoors, I started to notice the power of it and how it can either make or break my painting. I used to go out plein air painting only at certain times of the day, and this did more bad than good. But knowing when to go out painting is a lever that we can pull to either improve our skills or keep developing bad habits. Old masters knew this, and therefore they focused on different times of days to paint, to test different parts of their skill set. The best time to paint really depends on your skill level, and I have noticed this in myself and the work that I have done so far. I can confidently say that the easiest time of the day to paint as a beginner in plein air painting is midday. That's when the shadow shapes and the light shapes are very obvious. Of course, I'm talking about the midday when there's no clouds or few clouds, where the sun is able to make very harsh shadows. The hardest time of the day to paint would be in an overcast day or during sunsets. The problem with overcast days is that it's very hard to differentiate the shapes of light and shadow. So we are very dependent on the subtleties of value and color changes, which is something that is very hard to do as a beginner. And sunsets, depending on where you live in the world, they can be very fast or slower. For example, here in Norway, since I'm closer to the North Pole, the sun travels in a more horizontal manner to the horizon instead of so vertical like in places like the States. So this marks a huge difference in the amount of time that we have to paint the light as well as the colors that we see. For example, the painting that I'm trying to do right now, the light that you see at this moment or that I see at this moment, by the time that I was finished, the light was completely different and all the colors were slightly different, either darker or a different hue. The only reason I chose to paint this time today is because I had no choice, because I had to work before, and this was my only time to go out and paint. However, since I'm painting these in just 15 minutes, then one could say that it's enough time to paint this. Also, the trees provided a very good and solid shadow shape against the light shape, so I thought that it was easier to make this work. But I wasn't always so confident in painting at this time of day. And the only reason I got really comfortable, or at least somewhat comfortable, is because I spent 80% of the time painting at other times of day, which are easier than this one. Another powerful strategy that I learned from painting outdoors as well as studying masters is the composition. The time of day is important, but which direction your subject is facing is very important. Not only that, but how far or how close your subject is will make it easier or harder to paint the subject. I first noticed this from the watercolor paintings of Sargent. From what I've seen, most of them have been painted in side light, and this makes sense because it's the easiest way to see the light shape and the shadow shape contrasting with each other. And depending on the distance up to the subject, he chooses which direction he's looking at. At first I thought that he was just painting whatever was interesting for him, but now I understand that he was also making the strategic choice of what was easier to paint. Of course, these are all assumptions from my side, but from my experience, I think that's a good educated guess.